Hi everyone, this is Caitlin with Kait's Collectibles, and today I'm going to be reviewing slash unboxing the Proplica Moonstick. So the Moonstick is the first item from Proplica for the Sailor Moon line, and the whole premise of the Proplica line is to create real life or realistic versions of props from anime series, specifically Sailor Moon. So everything is supposed to be done with a 1-to-1 scale, so it should be accurate to the actual size the item would be expected to be in your hand. So to start with the box for the Proplica, now when the box arrived, one of the things I really liked about it compared to the 90s version is that it looks like a collector's item. It doesn't look like a cheap 90s toy. However, one of the things people complained about was the fact that the box doesn't have any kind of a clear plastic window on it, so you can't keep your item in the box to display it, you have to take it out to display. So depending on how dusty where you live is or how you plan on displaying it, there is a little bit more maintenance if you have it out of the box in terms of taking care of the item to keep it looking good. One of the things I really like about this box as well is the really stylized version of the moon stick on the front, with all the inner senshi symbols, the moons, the stars, the little outline of Sailor Moon there. It looks exactly like the item, and I thought it was just a really creative thing to do. You've got the logo, the official sticker that I've mentioned many times before, down in the bottom corner of the box here, so you know it's an official product, as well as the Tamashii Nations and Bandai logos on the other corner. So another thing to watch for. I don't think there have been many issues with the Proplicas being bootlegged, but I think that's also because there's a really big market for them since they've all had North American releases thus far. So something to keep in mind. Now the font where it says Moonstick is gold and shimmery, and you'll see on the side of the box as well, it follows that same little bit of shimmer. So you can kind of see it as I move it there. Same on both sides, and the top of the box just says Proplica again in a shimmery font. The back of the box shows off the item as well as describes some of the features, so you get an idea of what's included. So you've got the wand itself, the crystal attachment, as well as the Ginzuisho base, and the stand for the item and where you'd put your extra piece depending on whether or not you have the crystal in it. So all in all, I thought the packaging was really quite nice. It is a little unfortunate maybe that there isn't some kind of even just like a flap on the box that you could open to show it off with a clear plastic window, but it looks a lot more refined than the 90s toy version boxes looked. So I don't have any complaints about that. Now what comes in the box, I've already taken mine out of the package, but just to show off how well they packaged this, there were 2 plastic cases in the box where the items fit, and everything was really securely packaged in place. So nothing was shifting around, nothing was going to get damaged. I thought that was a nice attention to detail as well. The Moonstick also includes a booklet that describes how to use it and what the features are. And I really liked this logo on it as well, because you have a little bit of that fading that was on the front of the box with the symbols and everything, but then it fades into the actual product. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing as well. They basically had multiple versions of a logo for the Moonstick for the product. Now, inside the booklet, I pre-ordered mine through a Japanese site, so I don't know if the Amazon version actually has a translated version of this booklet. I know they often include a little feature card basically that describes how to use it in English, or at least they do if it's anything like the Cutie Moonrod that I got. Now, one of the things I will point out is on this right-hand side, they also describe the history of the Moonstick as a toy. So in this bottom right corner here, this is the Sailor Moon World version of the Moonstick. And the main feature with this one was that the crescent moon was a little bit more accurate It had a silver crystal that was permanently attached. It could not be removed, and it was rather pink in color. Whereas the one that's featured up in the top left corner is the original 90s toy version, where it had the two different little rings that you could put in the top that acted as a crystal. So it describes this is the 1992 version, and the version on the bottom is the Sailor Moon World version of the toy. So I like that it gives you a little bit of background on it in case you're not someone that knows. So here's the big fold out on the moon stick. So you can see it shows it highlights the different portions of it, the LED, the crystal attachment. It shows how tall it is. And then to the right side, it shows you how to actually access the battery panel in the back. It takes 3 LR44 batteries, and it does not come with batteries. So maybe the North American one does, but I kind of doubt it because my Cutie Moonrod didn't either. So the LR44s, you have to specifically make sure you have. There have been some reports with the first release of this product that people had kind of faulty battery attachments. Mine seems to work just fine, but I did have to put one of the batteries in upside down to get it to work, so I don't know quite why that was, but whatever works. So it also shows you how to put the base and the stand together. And then on the farthest side here, it shows you taking the crystal in and out. And the neatest part is that depending on whether or not the crystal is in and which side you have it turned to, there's a star or a moon. It'll play 2 different sounds for each setting, depending on a short or a long button press, which I'll end up demonstrating. So that's the booklet. I thought that was a nice thing to include for a toy like this. That's just the back of it there, so yet another silhouette of the moon stick. Now, part of the reason I was excited about the moon stick itself as a toy was, the first season of Sailor Moon is probably what most of us when we were younger got to watch endlessly on channels like YTV or whatever channel it was on in the States. I really loved this toy. I had the 90s Irwin version of it that I sold years ago, and kind of regretted afterwards just because I had pared down my collection and then didn't really understand why I'd gotten rid of a few items, including a star locket. So needless to say, it is a really accurate representation of what the moonstick should be. I do really like how curved they made the crescent moon. Usually it looks almost a bit banana-like. The ends were really rounded on the original toy. This one's very accurate and quite pointy. The stand itself is really nice as well. It holds it perfectly, but they didn't do much in terms of detail. They have basically this whole piece that cushions the wand down the side, and there's a tiny amount of detail in this stand here. Nothing fancy. And there is a little spot for the extra gold piece to sit. The back portion kind of hugs around where the speaker is, which I'll show off when it's out of the base. And you can see just how shiny the gold is on it. I also really like the pearlescent kind of a pink paint they used. I'm hoping that over time the color doesn't fade like a lot of the 90s ones have. That was a big issue with any of the toys from the 90s, is simply that they are 20 years old, so they have faded pretty significantly if they've been exposed to sunlight. So a couple of key features about this wand. There is a piece right here, you can see that circle. That piece comes out, and it's where you attach the silver crystal. Now, one of the ways they made this, I guess, easier to do is there are these tiny gold balls on either side of the crescent moon, and you simply push them in, and the piece pops out. So you're left with the opening and a little light bulb. And to put it back in, it really just clicks into place. It also has just one button, so it makes it really easy to press, and you don't have to press a whole bunch of buttons for different sounds. It is a little confusing though, because the piece where you determine whether it's on or off is this bottom portion. So on the back of the wand, we have the speaker hidden right here, which I thought was a really elegant way to do this. And to keep the toy both thin and accurate, I'm sure that's why they used the LR44 batteries, because if you go down the handle a little bit, the battery compartment is hidden. Extremely well. And you have to actually unscrew it to get into it. So if they had tried to put a couple of double A's in this handle, I think they would have had a hard time making all the electronics fit. And I picked up my LR44 batteries at the dollar store, so it wasn't very expensive to get it all. So down on the bottom of the handle here, you can see there's a little center line, and that's the off setting. There's a star, and there's a moon. So we'll turn it to the star first, and whenever you turn it on, it makes that sound. So we'll start with the short press. And a long press. And then the moon setting, short press, and a long press. So those are the sounds that you get when you don't have the silver crystal attachment in place. Now, the silver crystal attachment itself, this is the base for the crystal, which if you've seen the Sailor Moon R movie, it looks very similar to how her silver crystal looked then, which I was really excited about. This is probably one of the pieces of this Proplica that I was the most excited about, strangely enough, just because it's probably the only toy representation we've ever had of the crystal like this. Now the crystal itself really just sits in the center of this. There's nothing firmly holding it in place, so pulling it out is quite easy. And then this piece just sits off on its own wherever you display it. There's an extra gold piece that has an LED right in there. And the crystal snaps into this. So pulling it in and out can be a little bit scary at first because of the way it snaps together. I thought initially that this whole piece would sit in the crystal base, but when it didn't, I had to look at the manual again and see you just pull it apart. So let's switch those pieces out. So the extra gold piece, I usually just sit back in the base, and I usually like to display it with the silver crystal in place. And the easiest way to tell that you're putting the crystal piece in correctly is that there's one side that's flat on the gold. So that goes in towards the high side of the crescent moon. So we'll start on the star. Short press. and a long press. And then we'll switch it to the moon setting. Short press. And a long press. Now for me personally, I tend to leave it on the settings if I'm actually playing around with it where there's no voices, but they do actually have Sailor Moon's original voice actress doing some of the voices. I believe it's the original sound from the 90s that she sort of recreated. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think there's a different voice actress doing the other representation there. So that's the moon stick from Proplica. All in all, I would say if you are someone who likes to collect the RPG toys like me, and specifically Sailor Moon's related items, absolute must-have to have the Proplica version of this wand. I know recently the Moonlight Memories series announced their own version that they're going to be releasing that had a really cool Silver Millennium inspired base. But it was basically supposed to be like the 90s toy, I think without any sound. So if you like the versions where it lights up, it has the batteries, this is a really good option to have, especially if you're just looking for one to have in your collection. The Sailor Moon World version of the wand for quite a long time was very expensive to get on the secondary market because it was quite rare to see actually come up. And it was the only version that had a silver crystal. So you were kind of stuck if you wanted one that had the silver crystal in place. This one is kind of a perfect marrying between the two versions as far as I'm concerned, and it's accurate to size as well as appearance. It fits really comfortably in an adult-sized hand, so I think that this is probably the one version you should get if you're going to get any. So, like usual, if you like the video, like, comment, share, subscribe. Please let me know if there's certain things that you like to see being reviewed by me specifically, or if you're just happy to see whatever I decide to come up with next. Thanks!